December 19th, 2024, 11:47 p.m., St. Mary's Regional Hospital, Montana.
The security guard monitoring camera 7 in the north parking lot saw something that made him choke on his coffee. A pure white wolf, massive and moving with purpose, walked directly toward the emergency entrance. Not skulking, not hunting, walking like she had an appointment. The wolf stopped 15 feet from the automatic doors, sat down, tilted her head back, and howled. The sound shattered the frozen night. Every person within 200 yards stopped what they were doing. Inside the ER, nurses froze mid-step. Dr. Marcus Webb looked up from stitching a teenager's hand. Paramedic Jake Torres, loading supplies into Ambulance 3, dropped a box of gauze. The wolf howled again, louder, more insistent. Her breath fogged in the 18 below air. Fresh snow covered her back, meaning she'd been sitting there for a while before anyone noticed. Security guard Dennis Murray grabbed his radio. Dispatch? We got a situation at the north entrance. Big white wolf. Repeat, white wolf, just sitting there howling. The dispatcher's voice crackled back. Are you serious? Dead serious. Thing's the size of a German shepherd, pure white, blue eyes, and it won't leave. Dr. Webb appeared at the window, staring. Is that an Arctic wolf? Nobody answered because nobody knew. Montana had grey wolves, timber wolves, occasionally black wolves, but a pure white wolf with ice blue eyes, that wasn't supposed to exist here. The wolf turned her head and looked directly at camera 7, as if she knew exactly where the lens was, as if she was trying to tell them something. Then she did something that would be replayed on news channels across the country for the next month. She stood, walked to Ambulance 3, where Jake Torres stood frozen, and gently took his sleeve between her teeth. Not biting, just holding. She pulled, gently but firmly, toward the parking lot exit. Jake's voice came out as a whisper. She wants me to follow her. Before we continue this incredible story, if tales of loyalty and survival move you, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from and what time it is where you are right now. Your support helps us share more real stories like this. Now, let's see where this white wolf is leading them. Jake Torres had been a paramedic for 11 years. He'd seen drug overdoses, heart attacks, car crashes, farm accidents, hypothermia cases, and one guy who'd been struck by lightning twice in the same afternoon. But he had never, in his entire career, had a wolf ask him for help. "Jake, don't move," Dr. Webb called from the doorway. "Wildlife Services is on the way." But the wolf wasn't being aggressive. Her ears were forward, not flat. Her tail was low but not tucked. Her body language screamed urgency, not threat. She released Jake's sleeve and took 3 steps toward the parking lot exit, stopped, looked back, whined. Jake made a decision that would either save a life or get him fired. "I'm following her." "Jake, that's insane." "She's trying to tell us something." Jake climbed into Ambulance 3. His partner, Chen, no relation to the woman they were about to find, was already in the driver's seat, engine running. The wolf waited until she heard the engine, then took off running. Riley floored it. "This is the craziest thing I've ever done." The wolf moved fast, white fur barely visible against fresh snow. She stayed on the shoulder of Highway 93, glancing back every 100 yards to make sure the ambulance was following. Her paws left perfect prints in the powder. 4 miles. 5. The hospital's lights faded behind them. "Where the hell is she taking us?" Riley muttered. Jake was watching the wolf's movements. "She knows exactly where she's going. Look at her. That's not wandering, that's navigation." 6 miles out, the wolf suddenly veered right, leaving the highway and plunging into the forest. The ambulance couldn't follow. Riley slammed the brakes. Both paramedics jumped out, grabbing emergency bags and flashlights. The wolf stopped 50 feet into the trees, howled once, then disappeared into the darkness. Jake and Riley ran after her, boots crunching through knee-deep snow. The forest was pitch black, except for their flashlight beams cutting white tunnels through the night. Temperature had dropped to 22 below. Their breath came in frozen clouds. "Jake, this is crazy. We don't even know what we're looking for." Then they heard it. Not the wolf. Something else. Faint. Mechanical. Wrong. A car alarm. Muffled by snow and distance, but definitely a car alarm. They pushed forward, following the sound. The wolf appeared briefly, a white ghost between black pines, leading them deeper. The trees thinned. They emerged into a small clearing. And there, nose down in a frozen creek bed, was an overturned ambulance. Ambulance 12, the one that had left St. Mary's Regional 3 hours ago with a patient transfer. The one that dispatch had lost radio contact with at 9:15 p.m. The one nobody could find. Oh my God. Riley was already running. The vehicle had rolled, landing driver side down in the creek. The patient compartment faced the sky at a 70-degree angle. Snow had already started covering it, camouflaging it. Without the alarm, which was now dying, battery fading, they never would have found it. Jake reached the wreck first. The front cab was empty. Driver must have been thrown or crawled out. But the back. He climbed onto the side of the ambulance, now the top, and wrenched open the rear doors. His flashlight beam found her immediately. Dr. Sarah Chen, 34 years old, staff veterinarian at Wilderness Animal Clinic, 7 months pregnant. Unconscious, blood matting her dark hair. Left leg bent at an angle that made Jake's stomach turn. "Riley, we got one survivor, unresponsive, head trauma, possible spinal, definite femur fracture. Patient is pregnant." Riley was already calling it in. "Dispatch, we found ambulance 12, 6 miles north on 93, then 0.4 miles east into Forest 1. Survivor, critical condition. We need life flight now." Jake carefully climbed into the overturned ambulance. Equipment had scattered everywhere. The stretcher had torn loose, pinning Sarah against the back wall. He checked her pulse, weak but present, breathing shallow, core temperature dangerously low. "Sarah, can you hear me?" "Sarah, I'm Jake. I'm a paramedic. You're going to be okay." No response. He began stabilizing her neck, protecting her spine. Riley climbed in with the trauma bag. They worked in perfect synchronization, the way partners who'd saved 200 lives together knew how to move. Outside, the white wolf sat in the snow, watching, waiting. Her blue eyes never left the ambulance. It took 18 minutes for the helicopter to arrive. By then, Jake and Riley had Sarah stabilized, spine-boarded, IV running, oxygen flowing. They'd splintered her leg as best they could in the cramped space, but she needed surgery. Fast. The flight medics took over, lifting Sarah's board out of the wreck with practiced efficiency. As they carried her toward the helicopter, its rotor wash blasting snow in all directions, Sarah's eyes fluttered open. "Ghost," she whispered. So quiet Jake almost didn't hear it. "Ghost found me." Jake looked toward the tree line. The white wolf was gone. The helicopter lifted off at 12:47 a.m., carrying Sarah Chen towards surgery that would save her life and her unborn daughter's life. Jake and Riley stayed with the wrecked ambulance, documenting the scene, waiting for state police. They found the driver, Marcus Hill, 50 yards downstream. Hypothermia and a severe concussion, but alive. "How did you find us?" Marcus kept asking, teeth chattering. "How did you know where to look?" Jake didn't know how to answer. "A white wolf led us here." Marcus stared at him. "That's not possible." "Yeah," Jake agreed. "I know." The state police arrived at 1:30 a.m. The lead investigator, Captain Linda Morrison, examined the crash site with a flashlight and growing confusion. "The ambulance left the road here." She pointed to skid marks, barely visible under new snow. "Rolled 3 times based on the impact pattern. Ended up 200 yards into the forest. No way anyone driving by would see it. No way dispatch could triangulate the emergency beacon through this terrain." She looked at Jake. "So how exactly did you find it?" Jake explained. "The wolf at the hospital, the howling, the way it had grabbed his sleeve, how it led them directly here." Morrison's expression said she thought he was lying, or insane, or both. A wolf. A white wolf, pure white, blue eyes. Morrison made a note in her pad, the kind of note that meant she was humoring a crazy person. We'll check the hospital security footage. Good, because that's the only reason I believe it myself. By the time the sun rose, staining the Montana sky pink and gold, the story had already started spreading. A paramedic's body cam had recorded fragments. The hospital's camera 7 had captured everything. And somebody, probably Dennis the security guard, had already leaked the footage online. By noon, the video had 2 million views. By evening, 15 million. The white wolf approaching the hospital, the howl, taking Jake's sleeve, leading the ambulance into the night. The comments section exploded. This can't be real. CGI. Fake news. That's an Arctic wolf. They don't live in Montana. That wolf is a hero. But it was real. And at St. Mary's Regional Hospital, in a private room on the 4th floor, Dr. Sarah Chen woke up at 3 p.m. to find her colleague, Dr. Marcus Webb, sitting beside her bed. "How's my baby?" First words out of her mouth. "Perfect. Heartbeat strong. You're both going to be fine." Webb smiled. "You've got a fractured femur, severe concussion, 3 cracked ribs, and you're the luckiest woman in Montana." Sarah's hand went to her swollen belly. 7 months. So close. "Marcus said the ambulance rolled." "It did. Paramedics found you hypothermic and unconscious. You shouldn't be alive." "How did they find me?" Sarah's voice was still weak, words slightly slurred from the concussion. "We were so far from the road." Webb hesitated. "Sarah, I need you to stay calm. What I'm about to tell you sounds impossible." He showed her his phone. The viral video. The white wolf at the hospital entrance. The howl, leading the ambulance away. Sarah watched in silence. Tears began streaming down her face. "Ghost." "You said that in the ambulance. Who's Ghost?" Sarah closed her eyes. "A wolf I saved 4 years ago." 4 years ago, Dr. Sarah Chen had been a newly licensed veterinarian working at a wildlife rehabilitation center in Alaska. It was February, deep winter, when a trapper called in a report. "Got a white wolf in one of my traps. Thing's been there 3 days from the looks of it. Legs pretty mangled. Want me to shoot it or you want to come get it?" Sarah had driven 90 miles through a blizzard to reach the trap site. What she found broke her heart and changed her life. A young female wolf, maybe 2 years old, pure white, with blue eyes that held intelligence Sarah had never seen in an animal. The wolf's left front leg was shattered, bones visible through torn flesh. Infection had set in. Gangrene was beginning. The trapper stood nearby, rifle ready. "Can't save that leg. Probably can't save the wolf. Want me to end it quick?" Sarah had looked into those blue eyes, and the wolf had looked back. Not with fear, with something else. Trust? Hope? Understanding that this human was different? "No," Sarah heard herself say. "I'm taking her." The trapper shrugged. "Your funeral. Wolf that size can kill you easy." But Ghost, Sarah named her during the long drive to the clinic, didn't fight, didn't bite. She lay in the back of Sarah's truck, panting with pain, watching Sarah with those impossible blue eyes. The surgery took 7 hours. Sarah had to amputate the leg at the shoulder. No other option. A 3-legged wolf couldn't survive in the wild, couldn't hunt, couldn't run, couldn't defend territory. Ghost should have died. Every statistic said so. Every veterinary textbook said 3-legged wolves don't make it. But Ghost was different. She learned to balance on 3 legs within a week, learned to run within a month. Not as fast as a 4-legged wolf, but fast enough. She learned to compensate, using her powerful hind legs and her remaining front leg to move with shocking efficiency. Sarah kept her at the rehabilitation center for 6 months. In that time, they developed a bond Sarah couldn't explain to her colleagues. Ghost would follow Sarah everywhere, would sleep outside Sarah's office, would howl when Sarah left for the day. "You can't keep her," the center director had said. "She's wild. She needs to be released or transferred to a sanctuary." She can't survive in the wild with 3 legs. Then sanctuary it is. But before the transfer could happen, Ghost escaped. Sarah came to work one morning to find the enclosure gate torn open, clever paws having worked the latch. Ghost was gone. Sarah searched for weeks, posted flyers, contacted every ranger station within 200 miles. Nothing. She finally accepted that Ghost was dead, killed by other wolves, or by starvation, or by hunters who wouldn't pause to see the missing leg before pulling the trigger. 2 years passed. Sarah moved to Montana, took a job at Wilderness Animal Clinic, met a man named David, got married, got pregnant. Life moved on. But she never forgot the white wolf with blue eyes who had looked at her with something close to love. Now, lying in a hospital bed with a shattered leg of her own, Sarah understood. Ghost had survived. Ghost had thrived. Ghost had traveled thousands of miles somehow, impossibly, to Montana. Ghost had found her, and when Sarah needed saving, Ghost had returned the favor. "That's impossible," Dr. Webb said when Sarah finished the story. "Wolves don't track people across state lines. They don't navigate cities. They don't ask humans for help. Ghost isn't a normal wolf. She never was." Webb wanted to argue, wanted to cite studies and animal behavior research and logic. But he'd seen the video. He'd watched a wolf lead paramedics directly to a crash site nobody should have been able to find. "Where is she now?" Sarah asked. "Nobody knows. Vanished after the helicopter took off." Fish and Wildlife has been looking. Every news station in 3 states wants to interview the wolf. He smiled slightly. "You're both famous." Sarah didn't care about famous. She cared about one thing. "She saved my baby." "She saved you both." That night, while Sarah slept under heavy painkillers, security guard Dennis Murray was monitoring camera 7 again. It was 11:30 p.m., almost exactly 24 hours since the white wolf had first appeared. And there she was again, sitting in the same spot, staring at the hospital entrance. Dennis grabbed his radio. "She's back. The white wolf is back." This time, half the hospital staff came to the windows to watch. Dr. Webb was paged. Jake Torres, who'd been sleeping in the on-call room, came running. The wolf sat, motionless, in the falling snow, just watching, waiting. "What does she want?" someone whispered. Jake had a theory. "I think she's checking on Sarah, making sure she's okay." Wolves don't do that. This one does. They stood there for 20 minutes, hospital staff and one white wolf, separated by glass and automatic doors and the impossible gulf between human and wild. Then Ghost stood, looked one more time at the hospital, and walked away into the darkness. But she would return. Tomorrow night, and the night after, and the night after that. For 2 weeks, Ghost appeared every night at 11:30 p.m., sat in the same spot, stayed for exactly 20 minutes, then left. The media went insane. News vans camped in the parking lot. Photographers with telephoto lenses. Animal Planet wanted to do a documentary. A Hollywood producer called about movie rights. But Ghost only cared about one thing, making sure Sarah was okay. On the 15th night, Sarah was finally strong enough to use a wheelchair. Dr. Webb wheeled her to the window. It was 11:25 p.m. "She'll be here in 5 minutes, Webb said. "How do you know?" "She's never late." At exactly 11:30, Ghost emerged from the tree line, walked to her spot, sat down, and this time, for the first time, she wasn't alone. 4 wolf pups tumbled after her, young ones maybe 5 months old, 3 grey, 1 black. They wrestled in the snow while Ghost sat watching the hospital. Sarah pressed her hand against the window, tears streaming down her face. "She has a family." Ghost's head turned. She looked directly at the 4th floor window where Sarah sat. Even from 200 yards away, across parking lot and snow and darkness, their eyes met. Sarah mouthed 2 words. "Thank you." Ghost's tail wagged, just once, a small acknowledgement. Then she stood, called her pups with a low bark, and led them back into the forest. The next night, At 11:30 p.m., Ghost didn't come. She didn't come the night after either. Sarah waited by the window every night for a week, but Ghost was gone. Mission accomplished. Debt repaid. Back to the wild where she belonged. 6 weeks later, Sarah Chen was back at work. Sort of. She couldn't stand for long periods yet. The femur had healed with titanium pins and daily physical therapy that made her cry. But she could consult, could examine animals brought to her exam room, could do the work she loved. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late January when the call came in. The receptionist, Amy, appeared in Sarah's doorway looking pale. "Dr. Chen? Fish and Wildlife is on line 2. They say it's urgent. Something about a white wolf." Sarah's hand froze on the ultrasound wand she'd been using to check a pregnant cat. "Transfer it to me." The voice on the other end belonged to Agent Tom Brightwell, Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks. "Dr. Chen, we have a situation. About 40 miles north of you, near Glacier National Park. A rancher called in a wolf attack on his livestock. Shot and wounded a white wolf. Female. 3 legs. Sarah's world tilted. "Where is she?" "Rancher's got her cornered in his barn. He wants to finish the job, but when we told him about the wolf that saved you, he agreed to wait. For now. But Dr. Chen, if this wolf killed his cattle, we have to put her down. That's the law. Don't you dare touch her. I'm coming. Don't let him shoot her. Tom, please. You can't drive 40 miles with your leg. Watch me." Sarah hung up, grabbed her keys. Amy tried to protest, but Sarah was already limping toward the parking lot. She called David, her husband.
She drove. "The rancher shot Ghost. I have to help her." "Sarah, you can barely walk. Let Fish and Wildlife handle it." "She saved our daughter's life. I'm not letting some rancher kill her because she was hungry." David knew better than to argue when Sarah used that tone. "I'm meeting you there. Send me the address. And Sarah, drive carefully." The ranch belonged to Bill Whitmore, a man in his 60s with weathered hands and eyes that had seen too many Montana winters. He stood outside the barn with a rifle, not pointing it at anything, just holding it, ready. "Dr. Chen?" He looked at her crutches. "You're the woman from the news." "Where is she?" "Back corner of the barn. She's bleeding pretty bad. I caught her in the shoulder, but she's still got fight in her. Tried to approach her to check the wound, nearly took my hand off." Sarah pushed past him. The barn was dark, smelling of hay and cow manure and something else. Blood. She heard the growl before she saw her. Ghost was pressed into the corner, white fur matted with blood. Her shoulder wound was serious, bone possibly shattered. She was favoring her 2 remaining front legs, body low, teeth bared. But when she saw Sarah, something shifted. The growl stopped. Ghost's ears came forward. Her tail, tucked tight against her body, gave one small wag. "Hey girl," Sarah whispered. "Remember me?" She approached slowly. No sudden movements. Ghost watched her with those impossible blue eyes, intelligence and recognition and pain all mixed together. "I need to look at your shoulder. I need to help you. Will you let me?" Ghost whined, low and broken. She sank down onto her belly, head still up, watching, but not threatening. Sarah knelt beside her, ignoring the screaming protest from her healing femur. She examined the wound, through and through. Bullet had gone straight through the muscle, missing bone by maybe an inch, bleeding heavily, but not life-threatening if treated quickly. "Tom," Sarah called without looking away from Ghost. "I need my medical kit from the truck. And tranquilizer, 50 milligrams ketamine." Agent Brightwell appeared in the barn doorway. "Dr. Chen, if this wolf killed cattle, we can't just release her." "Show me the dead cattle." Bill Whitmore shifted uncomfortably. "Well, that's the thing. She didn't actually kill them." Sarah looked up sharply. "Excuse me?" "Found a cow dead this morning. Thought it was her at first, but when I checked closer, the cow died from birthing complications 2 days ago. The wolf was just eating what was already dead." Silence filled the barn, heavy and damning. "So you shot a starving wolf for eating carrion?" Sarah's voice was ice.
A three-legged wolf who can't hunt properly, who was eating something already dead, something that would have gone to waste anyway. Bill's face flushed red. I didn't know. I saw a white wolf on my property, heard about wolves taking cattle up north, and I reacted. You almost killed her. I know. I'm sorry.
Sarah looked at Tom Brightwell. No laws broken then? Scavenging dead livestock isn't predation. Tom nodded slowly. Technically no, but Dr. Chen, a three-legged wolf, can't survive in the wild. She's been scavenging because she can't hunt. Eventually, she'll starve or take live cattle or attack dogs. Then we will have to put her down. Sarah knew he was right, hated that he was right. Then she comes with me. Sarah, you can't keep a wolf. Wildlife rehabilitation license. I can keep her for medical treatment and assessment. Legally. Tom sighed. For how long? As long as it takes. Transporting a wounded wolf proved complicated. Even sedated, Ghost weighed 95 pounds. Sarah's femur couldn't handle that kind of stress. David arrived 20 minutes later with a metal crate borrowed from the clinic and enough determination to wrestle a bear. Together, they loaded Ghost into the truck. Bill Whitmore watched from his porch, guilt written across his weathered face. Doc? I really am sorry. Sarah looked at him. Put up signs. If she comes back, call me. Don't shoot. Yes, Ma'am. The drive home took an hour. Ghost woke halfway through, disoriented and panicking in the crate. Sarah sat in the back seat, hand pressed against the metal bars, talking softly. You're okay. I've got you. You saved me, remember? Now I'm saving you. We're even. Ghost's blue eyes found hers through the bars. The panic faded. She laid her head down and closed her eyes, trusting. At the clinic, Sarah had already prepared. A large enclosure in the back, used for recovering predators. Heated, secure, comfortable. She'd lined it with blankets and filled water bowls and left fresh deer meat donated by a local butcher. Dr. Marcus Webb met them at the door. Sarah, this is insane, even for you. Help me or get out of the way, Marcus. He helped. The surgery took 3 hours. Clean the wound, remove bullet fragments, stitch muscle tissue, antibiotics, pain medication. Ghost lay on the surgical table, breathing steadily under anesthesia, while Sarah worked. When Ghost woke, she was in the enclosure, warm, pain manageable. Sarah sitting outside the chain-link fence watching. Hey girl, surgery went well. You're going to be okay. Ghost stood shakily, tested her remaining legs, and walked to the fence. She pressed her nose against the chain link. Sarah pressed her hand to the same spot. Metal between them, but connection real. Why did you come to Montana? Sarah whispered. Alaska to Montana is over 1,000 miles. How did you find me? Ghost couldn't answer. But over the next 3 weeks, as she healed, Sarah began piecing together the story. Security footage from various gas stations and traffic cameras along Highway 93 showed Ghost's journey. Not all of it, but fragments. Enough to construct a timeline. Ghost had left Alaska in September, 4 months before the ambulance crash. She traveled south through Canada, into Idaho, then Montana. Roughly 1,400 miles, moving at night, avoiding humans, hunting when she could, scavenging when she couldn't. But why? Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a wolf behavior specialist from University of Montana, came to examine Ghost. She spent a week observing, taking notes, consulting with Sarah. This is unprecedented, Elena said on the 7th day. Wolves don't migrate this far alone. They don't cross state lines tracking individual humans. The olfactory memory required to find one specific person across 1,400 miles is beyond anything we've documented. But she did it. Because you saved her life. You gave her a chance when everyone else said to put her down. Dr. Chen, wolves don't forget. They form bonds. Ghost bonded with you 4 years ago, and that bond didn't break just because she left Alaska. So she came looking for me? Elena hesitated.
I think she came to repay a debt. In wolf culture, pack bonds are everything. You became her pack. When she escaped the rehabilitation center, she probably tried to find you. When you
weren't there, she tracked you. It would have taken months, maybe over a year. But she found you. Sarah felt tears burning. And then she watched, waited, until I needed her. Exactly. The crash happened in her territory. She probably heard it, smelled it, found you unconscious in that ambulance and knew you needed help. So she did what wolves do for pack. She got help. Sarah looked through the chain link at Ghost, who was eating raw chicken with delicate precision, despite missing a leg. She's not going back to the wild, is she? No, she's too bonded to humans now, too reliant on scavenging near civilization. If you release her, she'll either starve or get shot. So what do I do? Elena smiled. You keep her. Get a special permit. Build a proper enclosure. Make it official. You saved her once. Now save her again. The permit took 6 weeks to process. In that time, Ghost became a celebrity. News crews showed up at the clinic daily. The viral video of her leading the ambulance had been viewed 80 million times. People sent letters, donations, stuffed animals. A children's book publisher wanted to make a book about her. Sarah declined all interviews, but she accepted the donations, because building a permanent wolf enclosure wasn't cheap. By March, the enclosure was complete. 2 acres of fenced forest on the edge of Sarah's property. A heated den, running water, trees to provide shade and cover. It cost $40,000, mostly from donations, some from Sarah and David's savings. Ghost moved in on March 15th. She explored every inch, scent-marking trees, testing the fence, finding good spots to sleep. By evening, she'd claimed the highest point, a rock outcropping with a view of Sarah's house. That night, at 11:30 p.m., Ghost howled. The sound carried across the cold Montana air, making Sarah's neighbors nervous and Sarah's heart full. David found her standing at the window, 8 months pregnant now, belly huge, crying. She's happy, Sarah whispered. She's home. Our daughter is going to grow up with a wolf in the backyard, David said, but he was smiling. That's either the coolest thing ever, or Child Services is going to have questions. Sarah laughed through tears. Both. Definitely both. 2 weeks later, Sarah went into labor. It was 3 a.m., brutal and sudden. David drove like a man possessed, getting her to St. Mary's Regional in 15 minutes flat. The same hospital where Ghost had led the paramedics, the same emergency entrance. The labor lasted 14 hours. Complications, blood pressure spiking, fetal distress. At hour 12, Sarah was exhausted, terrified, sure something was going wrong. Dr. Marcus Webb was her attending physician. Sarah, we might need a C-section. The baby's heart rate is dropping. No, I can do this. Just give me more time. We don't have more time. From somewhere outside the hospital, Sarah heard it. A howl, clear and strong and unmistakable. Ghost. Sarah grabbed Marcus's hand. She's here. Ghost is here. Sarah. That's impossible. Your house is 12 miles away. Another howl. Closer. Security must be losing their minds, Sarah thought wildly. She came to help me, like I helped her. Sarah took a deep breath. I'm ready. Let's do this. 2 hours later, at 7:14 p.m. on March 29th, Hope Chen Morrison was born. 7 pounds 3 ounces, perfectly healthy, screaming with impressive lung capacity. Sarah held her daughter and cried, "She's here. She's perfect." David kissed Sarah's forehead. You did it. From the parking lot, Ghost howled one more time, a sound of pure triumph, then silence. Security footage would later show Ghost sitting outside the emergency entrance for exactly 14 hours, the entire length of Sarah's labor, refusing to leave. When the baby cried for the first time, Ghost's ears perked up. She stood, howled, and walked away, back toward the forest, back toward home. The nurses talked about it for weeks. The white wolf
who came to witness a birth, who stayed until she knew mother and baby were safe, who understood, somehow, that debts go both ways and love transcends species. When Sarah brought Hope home 3 days later, the first thing she did was walk, slowly and carefully, to Ghost's enclosure. The wolf was waiting at the fence. "Ghost, meet Hope. Hope, meet the wolf who saved Mommy's life." Ghost pressed her nose against the chain link. Hope, cradled in Sarah's arms, reached out one tiny hand toward the white fur visible through the fence. Her fingers brushed the metal, inches from Ghost's nose. Ghost's tail wagged, slow and gentle, approval. "She likes you," Sarah whispered to her daughter. "You're pack now." And for the next 18 years, that's exactly what Hope would be. The girl raised with a wolf. The child who learned to howl before she learned to talk. The teenager who would spend hours in Ghost's enclosure, reading books while Ghost slept beside her. But that night, with Hope only 3 days old, Sarah simply stood at the fence and watched Ghost watch her daughter. Two mothers, two survivors, connected by something that science couldn't explain and didn't need to. "Thank you," Sarah whispered, "for everything." Ghost's blue eyes met hers, understanding without words. The moon rose over Montana, full and bright, painting the snow silver. Inside the house, David was making dinner. In the enclosure, Ghost settled onto her favorite rock, keeping watch. And in Sarah's arms, Hope slept, safe and warm, guarded by love both human and wild. The viral video had been viewed 200 million times now. People from 40 countries had sent letters. A film crew from BBC wanted to do a documentary. But Sarah didn't care about any of that. She cared about the white wolf who had traveled 1,400 miles to repay a debt, who had led strangers through a blizzard to save a life, who had sat outside a hospital for 14 hours while a baby was born. Ghost wasn't just a wolf. She was family. She was proof that love doesn't follow rules, that gratitude transcends species, that sometimes the most impossible things are the most true. Sarah carried Hope back inside, out of the cold. Behind her, Ghost howled softly. Not a summons, not a warning, just a sound that meant home, safe, family. The sound echoed through the Montana night, carrying promises of protection and memories of rescue and the unbreakable bond between a woman who had saved a wolf and a wolf who had saved her back. 5 years passed. Hope Chen Morrison turned 5 in March, the same month Ghost turned 11. In wolf years, that made Ghost elderly. Her muzzle had greyed, though her body was still pure white. She moved slower now, slept more. Her blue eyes were still sharp, but arthritis had settled into her remaining legs, making cold mornings difficult. Hope didn't understand age. To her, Ghost was eternal. The wolf had been there every day of her life. When Hope took her first steps, Ghost had been watching from the enclosure fence. When Hope said her first word, "Gah" for Ghost, the wolf's tail had wagged so hard she nearly fell over. When Hope learned to read, she would sit in the enclosure for hours, reading picture books aloud while Ghost dozed beside her. Sarah had been nervous at first. A 5-year-old child in an enclosure with an 110-pound wolf seemed insane to every parenting book ever written. But Ghost treated Hope with extraordinary gentleness. She would lie completely still while Hope climbed on her, would let the child pull her ears, her tail, her fur, without so much as a growl, would position her body between Hope and the fence whenever strangers approached, protective without being threatening. She thinks Hope is her pup, Dr. Elena Rodriguez had explained during one of her annual checkups. Ghost never had biological pups of her own. She's channeling all her maternal instinct into protecting your daughter. Is that safe? With any other wolf? No. With Ghost, she'd die before letting anything happen to Hope. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late November when everything changed. Sarah was at the clinic, performing a routine surgery on a dog with hip dysplasia. David was at work. Hope was at kindergarten, due home on the bus at 3:15. Hope's school bus driver, Mrs. Patterson, had been driving the same route for 23 years. She knew every child, every stop, every pothole in the road. At 3:12 p.m., she was making the turn onto Millers Creek Bridge when a semi-truck, driver asleep at the wheel, crossed the center line. The impact was catastrophic. The semi hit the bus at a 45-degree angle, driver's side front. Mrs. Patterson died instantly. The bus spun, smashed through the bridge railing, and plunged 40 feet into the frozen creek below. 12 children were on that bus. Hope was in seat 7, passenger side, middle of the bus. The impact threw her against the window. Glass shattered. Cold air rushed in. Then water. The creek wasn't deep, maybe 6 feet, but it was moving fast. Snowmelt from the mountains. The bus landed on its side, driver's side down. Water poured through broken windows. Hope was 5 years old. She weighed 42 pounds. She was terrified, disoriented, and couldn't find her seatbelt release. Above her, other children were screaming. Some had gotten out through emergency exits. Some were trapped like her. The water was rising fast, already up to her chest. "Help!" Her voice was tiny, lost in the chaos. "Somebody help!" Nobody heard her. Sarah's phone rang at 3:18 p.m. David's name on the screen. "Sarah, there's been an accident. Hope's bus. Millers Creek Bridge." Sarah's world stopped. "Where is she?" "I don't know. I'm heading there now. Meet me." Sarah ran. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't grab her coat. Just ran to her truck and drove with her foot pressing the accelerator to the floor. The clinic was 8 miles from the bridge. She made it in 6 minutes, shattering every speed limit. The scene was chaos. Fire trucks, ambulances, police cars everywhere. Parents screaming. Children wrapped in blankets being loaded into ambulances. The bridge railing was destroyed, a gaping hole where the bus had gone through. Sarah grabbed the nearest firefighter. "My daughter, Hope Chen Morrison, where is she?" "Ma'am, we're still pulling kids out. Several are trapped in the bus. Divers are working, but the current is strong and the water temperature is 34 degrees. Sarah ran to the bridge, looked down. The bus was on its side in the creek, half submerged. Rescue divers in wetsuits were swimming in and out, pulling children through windows. She could see movement inside. Small shapes, kids still trapped. "Hope!" she screamed it. "Hope!" One of the shapes inside moved toward her voice. David appeared beside her, grabbed her arm. "Sarah, let them work. They're doing everything they can. She's in there, and she's scared." A diver surfaced with a small boy, maybe 7 years old.
Hypothermic, barely conscious, past him to waiting firefighters on the shore, dove back under. How long had it been? 10 minutes since the crash? 15? How long could a 5-year-old survive in 34-degree water? Sarah watched, helpless, while strangers tried to save her daughter. She prayed to every god she didn't believe in, made promises she'd never keep, begged the universe for one more miracle. At the clinic, 12 miles away, Ghost woke from a nap. Her ears pricked forward, her head lifted. Something was wrong. She stood, tested her arthritic legs, and began pacing the enclosure. Back and forth, back and forth. A low whine building in her throat. The clinic's veterinary assistant, Marcus, different Marcus, younger, no relation to Dr. Webb, was doing afternoon feeding rounds. He paused at Ghost's enclosure, concerned. "You okay, girl?" Ghost ignored him. She was listening to something he couldn't hear, feeling something he couldn't feel. The bond between her and Sarah's family ran deep, deeper than science understood. And that bond was screaming that Hope was in danger. Ghost did something she'd never done before. She rammed the enclosure fence, all 95 pounds of elderly wolf, hitting chain link at full speed. The fence shook but held. She backed up, rammed again. "Whoa, Ghost, stop!" Marcus ran toward the enclosure. "You're going to hurt yourself." Ghost rammed the fence a third time. Metal bent. Not much, but enough.
She bit at the weak point, pulling with her powerful jaws. The chain link tore. "Oh no, 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 no." Marcus grabbed his radio. "Dr. Chen, Ghost is breaking out of her enclosure. I can't stop her." But Sarah's phone was on the bridge, screen dark, forgotten on the ground where she dropped it while screaming for her daughter. Ghost squeezed through the torn fence, scraping her side bloody. She hit the ground running, moving faster than she'd moved in years. Arthritis forgotten, age forgotten. Only one thing mattered. Hope was in danger.
She ran down the driveway, onto Highway 93. Cars swerved, horns blared. One pickup truck nearly hit her, missed by inches. Ghost didn't care. She ran with single-minded purpose, following something that wasn't scent or sound or sight, following the bond. At the bridge, another diver surfaced, empty-handed. He shook his head at the fire chief. "Water's too murky, current's too strong. We can't see anything inside the bus. We're going to have to secure lines and go slower." "We don't have time for slower," the fire chief barked. "There are still kids in there." Sarah heard this exchange, felt something inside her break. She pulled away from David and ran for the edge of the bridge. "Sarah, no!" She was going to jump, was going to swim down there herself, was going to find her daughter or die trying. A state trooper caught her, held her back. "Ma'am, you can't. The current will kill you." "Then let it kill me. My baby is down there." She fought him, screaming, hysterical. David was there, pulling her back, wrapping his arms around her while she collapsed, sobbing. That's when Ghost arrived. She burst through the crowd of emergency personnel like a white missile, didn't slow down, didn't hesitate, ran straight for the bridge edge and jumped, 40 feet, straight down, into freezing water. "What the hell?" The fire chief stared. Sarah's head snapped up. "Ghost?" The white wolf hit the water with a splash, went under, surfaced. The current immediately grabbed her, pulling her downstream. But Ghost was a strong swimmer, even with 3 legs. She fought against the current, paddling toward the overturned bus. A diver tried to intercept her. "Control, we have a wolf in the water. I repeat, a wolf just jumped off the bridge." Ghost ignored him. She reached the bus, dove under. The diver followed, worried she'd get trapped or drown. Inside the submerged portion of the bus, the water was dark and freezing. Ghost's paws found purchase on the tilted floor. Her eyes, adapted for night hunting, could see better than human eyes in the murky water. She saw shapes, small bodies. One wasn't moving. Another was struggling weakly against a seatbelt. Hope. Ghost swam to her, grabbed the strap of Hope's backpack in her teeth. Pulled. The seatbelt held. Ghost released the backpack, dove deeper, found the seatbelt mechanism. Bit down hard. Plastic cracked. The belt released. Hope, barely conscious, felt herself being pulled upward. Something had her backpack. Something was dragging her toward light. They broke the surface together. Ghost's jaws clamped on Hope's backpack, holding the child's head above water. Hope coughed, choked, gasped for air. The diver surfaced beside them, stunned. "I've got her! I've got the kid!" He grabbed Hope from Ghost's jaws. The wolf released her, treading water, watching to make sure the human had her. Satisfied, Ghost turned and swam for shore. By the time she reached the riverbank, Sarah was there, waist deep in freezing water, screaming. Hope's name. David was beside her. Firefighters were wading in. The diver handed Hope to a firefighter who carried her to shore. Sarah grabbed her daughter, wrapped her in blankets, held her so tight, Hope whimpered. "Mama." "I've got you, baby. I've got you. You're safe." Hope's lips were blue. Her skin was ice white, but she was breathing, conscious. "Ghost saved me," Hope whispered through chattering teeth. "Ghost came." Sarah looked toward the riverbank. Ghost was there, dripping wet, shaking from cold and exhaustion. Their eyes met across 20 feet of muddy ground. "You came," Sarah whispered. Ghost's tail gave one weak wag. Then her legs buckled. She collapsed onto her side, unconscious. "No!" Sarah handed Hope to David. "Take her to the ambulance, now." She ran to Ghost, dropped to her knees in the mud. The wolf was breathing, but barely. Hypothermia.
exhaustion. An 11-year-old wolf with arthritis had just run 12 miles and jumped off a bridge. "Somebody help me, please!" 2 paramedics ran over with blankets. They wrapped Ghost in emergency thermal blankets, the same kind they use for human hypothermia victims. Sarah cradled the wolf's head in her lap. "Don't you dare die. You don't get to save my daughter and then die. Ghost, please." Dr. Marcus Webb arrived 20 minutes later. He'd heard about the accident on his police scanner, had come immediately. When he saw Sarah on the riverbank, covered in mud, holding an unconscious wolf, he didn't even question it. "Get her in my truck. We're taking her to the clinic, now." They loaded Ghost into the back seat. Sarah climbed in beside her, keeping the thermal blankets wrapped tight. Marcus drove like a man possessed. "She saved Hope," Sarah said, numb, in shock. "She broke out of her enclosure, ran 12 miles, jumped off a bridge, found Hope underwater and got her out." Marcus gripped the steering wheel. "That's impossible." "I watched it happen." At the clinic, they worked on Ghost for 3 hours, warming her core temperature slowly, IV fluids, oxygen, monitoring her heart. The hypothermia was severe, the exhaustion worse. Her arthritis-damaged legs were swollen from the run. "She shouldn't have been able to do what she did," Marcus said quietly. "Physically, it shouldn't be possible. An 11-year-old wolf with 3 legs and arthritis doesn't run 12 miles. "She heard Hope calling," Sarah said. "Somehow she knew." At the hospital, Hope was being treated for hypothermia and minor injuries. Bruises, cuts from broken glass, but alive. The doctors called it a miracle. 11 children had survived the crash. Mrs. Patterson had died. One child, a boy named Tommy Martinez, had drowned before divers could reach him. The community would mourn for weeks. But Hope Chen Morrison survived because a white wolf had broken through chain link and jumped off a bridge. The news media went insane again. "Ghost the Miracle Wolf Saves Child from Drowning Bus" was the headline across every news station in America. The video, taken by a parent's cell phone, showed Ghost jumping off the bridge, swimming to the bus, emerging with Hope's backpack in her jaws. The video went viral, 500 million views in 48 hours. News crews from CNN, BBC, ABC, NBC, Fox, every major network descended on the clinic. Sarah refused all interviews, but the clinic's security cameras had captured Ghost breaking out. That footage leaked online too. People sent letters, thousands of letters, from children who'd survived trauma, from parents who'd lost children, from veterans with PTSD who identified with a wounded warrior who kept fighting, from animal lovers who'd never believed in interspecies bonds until they saw proof. A senator from Montana proposed a bill to give Ghost official recognition as a service animal, which made no legal sense but passed anyway. The governor showed up at the clinic with a medal, which Ghost tried to eat. But Sarah only cared about one thing: Ghost surviving. It took 2 weeks for Ghost to recover enough to walk, another week before she could return to her enclosure. The torn fence had been reinforced with stronger material, though Sarah suspected if Ghost wanted out again, she'd find a way. Hope visited Ghost every day, sitting outside the enclosure because doctors said she couldn't go inside until she'd fully recovered from hypothermia. She would press her hand against the fence, and Ghost would press her nose to the same spot. "I knew you'd come," Hope whispered. "I was scared, and I called for you, and you came." Ghost's tail wagged slowly. "Yes, I came. I'll always come." The bond between them was unbreakable now. Hope had been raised with Ghost, but this was different. Ghost had risked everything, had pushed her elderly body past its limits to save this child. And Hope understood, in the way that 5-year-olds sometimes understand things adults don't, that she owed her life to this white wolf. Christmas came. Sarah and David threw a party at the clinic, inviting everyone who'd helped with the rescue: firefighters, paramedics, divers, police. They decorated Ghost's enclosure with strings of lights. Hope insisted on making a special dinner for Ghost, fresh venison steaks and chicken, which Ghost ate with obvious delight. The local news did a feel-good story. Girl and wolf celebrate first Christmas after miracle rescue. It was saccharine and overdone, but Sarah didn't care. Her daughter was alive. Ghost was alive. That was all that mattered. On New Year's Eve, as midnight approached, the family gathered outside Ghost's enclosure. Sarah, David, Hope, and Dr. Marcus Webb, who'd become a close friend after everything. To Ghost, Marcus raised a glass of champagne, the most remarkable animal I've ever had the privilege of treating. To Ghost, they all echoed. Inside the enclosure, Ghost lifted her head and howled, a sound of pure joy, echoing across the frozen Montana landscape, carrying promises and memories and the unbreakable bond of family. Hope, wrapped in her father's arms, howled back, a child's imitation of a wolf's song, not perfect, but real. Ghost's tail wagged, her blue eyes shone in the Christmas lights, and for one perfect moment, everything was right in the world. But Ghost was 11 years old. Wolves rarely lived past 12 or 13 in captivity. Time was running out, and everyone knew it. The next year brought changes. Ghost slept more, moved less. Her appetite decreased. Dr. Elena Rodriguez examined her in March. "She's in the final stage of her life," Elena said gently. "Maybe 6 months, maybe a year. Her heart is strong, but her joints are failing. She's in pain, Sarah. I can give her pain medication." "You can, but there will come a time when medication isn't enough, when she can't stand anymore, can't eat, when she's suffering." Sarah understood what Elena wasn't saying. There would come a time when the kindest thing would be to let Ghost go. But not yet. Please, not yet. Ghost made it through spring, through summer. Hope turned 6 in March, reading chapter books now, reading them aloud to Ghost, who would doze beside her in the enclosure, content. But by October, Ghost couldn't stand without help, couldn't walk more than a few feet. Sarah had to carry food to her, had to help her to the water bowl. "Mama, why doesn't Ghost play anymore?" Hope asked one evening. Sarah knelt beside her daughter. "Ghost is very old, sweetheart. She's tired." "Can't the doctor make her better?" "Not this time, baby." Hope's face crumpled. "But I need her." "I know. I need her too." That night, Sarah
Sat in Ghost's enclosure until midnight. The wolf's head rested in her lap. Her breathing was labored. Her eyes were cloudy with age. "You've had such a good life," Sarah whispered. "You survived when everyone said you wouldn't. You found me across 1,400 miles. You saved my life. You saved my daughter's life. You've given us so much." Ghost's tail moved slightly, still listening. "If you're tired, it's okay to rest. If you're ready to go, I'll understand. I'll miss you every day for the rest of my life, but I'll understand." Ghost's blue eyes, still sharp despite the cloudiness, met Sarah's. "Not yet. Not ready yet." "Okay," Sarah smiled through tears. "Not yet." Ghost held on for another month. November came cold and harsh, but Ghost's enclosure was heated, comfortable. She couldn't walk anymore. Sarah and David carried her outside on a stretcher twice a day so she could feel the sun, the wind, the snow. Hope would lie beside her, reading stories. Ghost's tail would wag weakly, showing she heard, she understood, she was still there. The end came on a Tuesday morning in late November, exactly 1 year after the bus crash. Sarah woke with a feeling of dread. She ran to the enclosure. Ghost was lying on her favorite rock, the one with a view of the house. Her breathing was shallow. Her eyes were open but unfocused. Sarah climbed onto the rock beside her. "Hey, girl." Ghost's eyes found her. Recognition. Love. "Thank you," Sarah whispered, "for everything, for being my friend, for saving me, for loving Hope. Thank you." Ghost's tail moved one final time, a tiny wag. "You're welcome." Then she closed her eyes and stopped breathing. Sarah sat there for an hour, holding Ghost's head, crying. David found her there, wrapped his arms around her.
They grieved together while the Montana sun rose over the mountains, painting everything gold. Hope took it hard, cried for 3 days straight, wouldn't eat, wouldn't talk. On the 4th day, Sarah took her to the enclosure, where Ghost's body had been buried beneath the rock she'd loved. They'd placed a marker, simple stone, engraved with words Hope had chosen. Ghost, the bravest wolf, our family forever. Hope placed flowers on the grave, wild flowers she'd picked from the field, frozen but still beautiful. She's not gone, Sarah said softly. She's still with us, in our hearts, in our memories. Every time you're brave, that's Ghost. Every time you help someone, that's Ghost. I miss her. Me too, baby. Every single day. 12 years later, Hope Chen Morrison was 17 years old, a high school senior with her mother's determination and her father's calm demeanor. She stood 5'7", had inherited her mother's dark hair and her father's green eyes, and had been accepted to Montana State University's veterinary program with a full scholarship. Every college admissions officer who read her essay about growing up with a wolf who had saved her life twice had been moved to tears. Some thought it was fiction. Then they
Googled Ghost the White Wolf and found 47 million results. Hope had never forgotten Ghost. How could she? The wolf's presence had shaped every day of her childhood. Even now, 12 years after Ghost's death, Hope visited the grave weekly, would sit on the rock and talk to the stone marker like Ghost was still there, listening. "I got into vet school, Ghost," she'd say. "Just like Mom. I'm going to help animals like she helped you." The wind would blow through the enclosure, rustling the bare trees, and Hope would imagine it was Ghost's approval. Sarah had never gotten another wolf. The enclosure sat empty, a memorial. Sometimes deer would wander through. Once, a black bear had denned there for winter. Sarah let it stay, figuring Ghost would have approved of sharing space with another creature in need. The clinic had grown. Sarah was now the owner, having bought out her retiring partner. She specialized in wildlife rehabilitation, treating everything from injured hawks to orphaned fox kits. Her waiting room wall displayed the famous photo, Ghost jumping off Miller's Creek Bridge, frozen mid-leap, a white angel against grey sky. Below it, a plaque. In memory of Ghost, who taught us that love transcends species. David had written a book about Ghost's story. Published 3 years after her death, it became a bestseller. The White Wolf, a true story of loyalty, courage, and the unbreakable bond between species. All proceeds went to wolf conservation efforts. Hope had been on the book tour with him, a 14-year-old girl telling audiences about the wolf who had been her best friend, her guardian, her family. "People ask me if I was scared living with a wolf," Hope would say during Q&A sessions. But Ghost was never scary. She was gentle, she was kind, she loved us. And when I needed her most, she came. That's what family does. The question that came up most often, do you wish you could have another wolf? Hope's answer never changed. There will never be another Ghost. She was one of a kind. But on December 15th, 2036, exactly 12 years after the bridge incident, something impossible happened. Hope was working her after-school shift at her mother's clinic, cleaning exam rooms and feeding the animals in recovery. It was 6:30 p.m., dark outside, snow falling heavy. Her parents had gone home early. Hope was alone, which she preferred. Quiet time to think. She was carrying food to a recovering eagle when she heard it, a sound that made her freeze, made her heart stop, made the food bowl slip from her hands. A howl. Not just any howl, a specific howl. The same tone, the same cadence, the same haunting beauty that she remembered from childhood. Hope ran to the window, pressed her face against the cold glass. And there, standing in the parking lot under the security light, was a white wolf. For one insane moment, Hope thought she was hallucinating, thought Ghost had somehow come back. But this wolf was younger, bigger, male from the body structure, but pure white,
same ice blue eyes, same proud stance. The wolf looked directly at her through the window, howled again. Hope's hands were shaking as she grabbed her phone, called her mother. "Mom, you need to come back to the clinic, right now." "Hope, what's wrong?" "There's a white wolf in the parking lot." Silence. Then, "What?" "A white wolf, pure white, blue eyes. He's just standing there. Mom, he looks exactly like Ghost." Sarah and David arrived in 8 minutes, breaking every speed limit. They found Hope standing in the parking lot, 15 feet from the wolf, staring at each other. "Hope, get back," Sarah said, but her voice was weak, because she was staring at the wolf too. The resemblance was impossible. Not identical to Ghost, but close. So close. The wolf's attention shifted to Sarah. He took 3 steps toward her, stopped, sat down, tilted his head, studying her with those blue eyes. "It's not possible," David whispered. "Ghost died 12 years ago. This can't be her." "It's not her," Sarah said slowly. "But David, what if it's her son?" They stood in the falling snow, 3 humans and 1 white wolf, while the impossible became possible. Dr. Elena Rodriguez arrived within the hour. She'd been studying wolves in Yellowstone, but dropped everything when Sarah called. She approached the wolf carefully, professionally, with a tranquilizer gun just in case. The wolf didn't run, didn't attack, just watched Elena with calm intelligence. "May I examine you?" Elena asked, as if the wolf could answer. The wolf lay down, rolled onto his side, submitted completely. Elena's hands moved over his body,
checking for injuries, parasites, signs of illness. "He's healthy, well-fed, about 6 years old, and..." She paused, parted the fur on his left shoulder. "He's got a scar here. Surgical scar. Professional work." Sarah knelt beside Elena. The scar was distinctive, precise, the kind of scar left by a veterinary surgeon removing embedded metal. "He's been in a clinic before," Sarah said. "Someone treated him." Elena pulled a small kit from her bag. "I'm taking a DNA sample. If this wolf is related to Ghost, we'll know." The wolf allowed the cheek swab without resistance. Elena bagged the sample, labeled it, and stood. "Results will take a week. But Sarah, look at him. The coloring, the eyes, the behavior. This wolf has been around humans before. He's comfortable with us. That doesn't happen with wild wolves." "What do we do with him?" David asked. The wolf answered by standing, walking to Hope, and sitting directly in front of her. He looked up at the teenage girl with unmistakable recognition. Hope slowly reached out her hand. The wolf pressed his nose into her palm. "He knows me," Hope whispered. "Mom, he knows me." They brought the wolf into the clinic that night. Set him up in the old examination room, the same one where Sarah had treated Ghost 12 years ago. The wolf explored every corner, sniffing, investigating. When he reached the spot where Ghost's surgical table had been, he paused, sniffed deeply, sat down. "He smells her," Sarah said quietly. "After 12 years, he smells Ghost." The DNA results came back 6 days later. Elena called Sarah at 7 a.m., her voice shaking with excitement. "Sarah, sit down. Just tell me." "The white wolf is Ghost's biological son. 99.7% certainty. Same genetic markers, same rare mutation that causes the white coat and blue eyes. Sarah, Ghost had a litter before you found her in Alaska." Sarah sat down hard. "She was pregnant when I treated her?" "No, earlier, probably a year before the trap. She had pups, raised them to independence, then got caught. You saved her, she recovered, she escaped to find you, but she left a litter behind in Alaska. And one of them came here, found us, just like Ghost did." "Just like Ghost did," Elena confirmed. "The genetic drive is incredible. This male somehow tracked Ghost's path. Or maybe he tracked you, the same way Ghost did. Sarah,
This is unprecedented. We're talking about multi-generational bonding across species. This wolf came looking for the family his mother found. Hope was listening on speakerphone. What's his name? Sarah looked at the white wolf, who was watching her through the exam room window. Ghost called him here. He's her legacy, her continuation. Spirit, Hope said softly. His name is Spirit. Spirit stayed. The permit process was easier this time. Montana Fish and Wildlife remembered Ghost, remembered the viral videos, the rescues, the impossible bond. When Sarah applied for a permit to keep Spirit, it was approved in 48 hours. Ghost earned
This, the wildlife director said. She proved that some bonds transcend normal animal behavior. If her son came looking for you, who are we to separate him from his family? They rebuilt the enclosure, stronger this time, larger. Spirit moved in on Christmas Eve, exactly 12 years and 1 day after Ghost's death. Hope spent hours in the enclosure that first week. Spirit was different from Ghost, more playful, more energetic. But the same gentleness was there, the same intelligence, the same uncanny ability to understand human emotion. When Hope cried, missing Ghost, Spirit would press against her side. When she laughed, his tail would wag. When she read books aloud, he would lie beside her, listening. He's so much like her, Hope told her mother. It's like she sent him to us. Sarah watched from the house, saw her daughter with the white wolf, and felt something break and heal simultaneously in her chest. Ghost was gone, but her legacy lived on. Spirit became a fixture in Hope's life the same way Ghost had been. When Hope started college at Montana State, she came home every weekend to spend time with him. When she struggled with organic chemistry, she'd sit in the enclosure and complain to Spirit, who would listen with patient blue eyes. "I don't know why I'm telling you this," Hope would say. "You're a wolf. You don't care about molecular structures." Spirit's tail would wag. "I'm listening. Keep talking." By Hope's junior year, Spirit was 9 years old. Still healthy, still strong, but Sarah watched him carefully. She'd learned with Ghost that white wolves with the genetic mutation didn't live as long as normal wolves. 12 years had been extraordinary. She wouldn't expect the same from Spirit. But Spirit had something Ghost never had, a calmer life. No running 12 miles through snow, no jumping off bridges, just peace, safety, love. He made it to his 10th birthday, then his 11th. Hope graduated vet school at 22, with Spirit watching from the enclosure during her backyard celebration party. "I did it, Ghost," Hope whispered to the grave marker that night. "I did it, Spirit. I'm a vet like Mom." Spirit howled, long and proud, a sound of celebration that carried across the Montana mountains. Hope joined her mother's practice, started treating wildlife herself, saved an injured eagle, a hit-by-car deer, an orphaned fox kit. Every time she sutured a wound or set a bone, she thought of Ghost, thought of the white wolf her mother had saved when everyone else said to let her die. "You started this," Hope would say to Ghost's grave. "You showed us what was possible." The wind would blow, and Hope would smile. On Hope's 25th birthday, she was working a late shift at the clinic when the call came in. "Doc Chen? This is Ranger Matthews up in Glacier National Park. We've got a situation. A mother wolf was hit by a car. She's dead. But we found 3 pups with her. About 8 weeks old. 2 grey, 1 white." Hope's breath caught. "White? Pure white. Blue eyes. Never seen anything like it. Thing is, we're supposed to take orphaned pups to the wildlife center in Billings, but I heard about your family, about Ghost and Spirit. Thought maybe you'd want first look." Hope drove to Glacier through a snowstorm. It took 3 hours. When she arrived, Ranger Matthews was waiting with a cardboard box. Inside were 3 wolf pups. 2 grey ones were huddled together, scared. The white one was sitting up, looking directly at Hope with blue eyes that she knew, that she'd known her entire life. "Hello," Hope whispered. The white pup's tail wagged. Hope took all 3 pups. The grey ones went to the wildlife center, where they'd be raised and released. But the white one came home. Sarah met her at the clinic door, looked into the box, started crying. "It's happening again," Sarah said. "The cycle continues."
They named the pup Legacy, because that's what she was. Ghost's legacy. Spirit's daughter. The continuation of something that had started 25 years ago in an Alaska trap. Legacy grew up in the enclosure with her father, Spirit. Hope worked at the clinic by day and spent evenings with the wolves by night. She'd bring her laptop into the enclosure, do paperwork while Spirit dozed and Legacy played. You know this is crazy, right? Hope's boyfriend, Marcus. Yes, another Marcus. They were apparently everywhere in Montana, said one evening. You're 25 years old. Most people your age are going to bars and dating. You're spending Friday night with wolves. These aren't just wolves, Hope said. They're family. Marcus looked at Spirit, who was watching him with calculated intelligence, and at Legacy, who was chewing on Hope's
shoelaces. Yeah, he said slowly. I can see that. He proposed 6 months later, in the enclosure, with both wolves watching. If I'm marrying you, Marcus said, I'm marrying your whole family, including the wolves. Hope said yes. Spirit howled approval. Legacy tried to eat the ring box. They got married the next spring. The ceremony was in the backyard. The reception included 2 white wolves in the enclosure, watching through the fence. Hope had insisted. Ghost should be here, she'd said. And she is, through Spirit and Legacy. When Hope and Marcus cut the cake, they saved pieces for the wolves. Spirit ate his with dignified precision. Legacy wore hers like a hat. The guests, who included half the town and 3 news crews because anything involving Ghost's family was news, laughed and cried and took 1,000 photos. That night, Hope visited Ghost's grave alone, placed her wedding bouquet on the stone. Thank you, she whispered, for everything, for saving Mom, for saving me, for sending Spirit, for giving us legacy. You changed our lives, Ghost. You made us better. The wind blew through the enclosure, and Hope felt, more than heard, a response. You're welcome. I told you I'd always come. 10 years later, Hope Chen Morrison Hayes was 35 years old, a successful veterinarian, mother to 2 children, ages 7 and 5, and the guardian of Legacy, who was now 15 years old. Spirit had died 2 years ago at age 16, an extraordinary age for a wolf. Legacy had grieved for weeks, howling every night. But she'd recovered, the way animals do, and now spent her days sleeping in the sun and playing gently with Hope's children. It was a Tuesday in December when Hope received a package from Alaska. No return address, just a thick envelope with her name on it. Inside was a letter, handwritten on yellowed paper. Dear Dr. Chen Morrison, my name is James Whitmore. I'm a wildlife researcher in Alaska. I don't know if you remember, but 29 years ago, your mother saved a white wolf named Ghost. That wolf was trapped on my family's land. I need to tell you something I've kept secret for nearly 3 decades. When your mother came to get Ghost, the wolf had already been in that trap for 3 days. What I didn't tell anyone was that Ghost wasn't alone. She had 3 pups hidden in a den 200 yards from the trap. I found them after your mother left. 2 grey, 1 white. I raised those pups myself, released the grey ones when they were old enough. But the white one, I named him North. I kept him for 2 years, studied him. He had the same intelligence Ghost did, the same unusual bond with humans. When I released North, he headed south. I tracked him for 6 months. He went to Montana, found your family. You called him Spirit. But here's what you don't know. North had a mate before he left Alaska. She had pups. One of them was pure white. Female. I tracked her for years. She eventually migrated to Glacier National Park. Dr. Chen, the pup you rescued 10 years ago, the one you call Legacy, is Ghost's granddaughter. Through Spirit and through another line we never knew about. But there's more. That female wolf from Glacier had pups of her own before she was hit by the car. I found them 2 months ago. 3 pups. 2 were adopted by locals, but one, a male, pure white, blue eyes, escaped. I've been tracking him for 8 weeks. He's headed to Montana, to you. Ghost's great-grandson is coming home. He should arrive at your clinic around Christmas. Some bonds don't break, they multiply. Sincerely, James Whitmore. Hope read the letter 3 times. Her hands were shaking. She walked to the window, looked out at the December snow, and laughed through tears. 4 generations, ghost to spirit to legacy to whatever the new pup's name would be. The cycle wasn't ending, it was growing. She called her mother. "Mom, you need to read this letter." Sarah read it over the phone, was silent for a long moment. "Hope, do you understand what this means? Ghost's bloodline is continuing. They keep coming back to us."
It's more than that. James says the genetics are stable. The white coat, the blue eyes, the intelligence, the bond with humans. It's passing down. Ghost didn't just save us. She created a legacy that will outlive us all. 2 weeks later, on Christmas Eve, a white wolf pup appeared at the clinic door. He was 12 weeks old, pure white, ice blue eyes. He sat in the same spot Ghost had sat 29 years ago, howled the same howl. Hope opened the door. The pup walked inside like he owned the place, went straight to Legacy's enclosure. The elderly wolf stood, sniffed the pup through the fence, and her tail wagged. Family. Hope named him Echo, because he was the echo of Ghost, the continuation of everything she'd started. That night, Hope's family gathered around the enclosure. Hope, Marcus, their 2 children, Sarah, David, now in his 60s but still strong, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who'd been studying the Ghost bloodline for 15 years, and even James Whitmore, who'd flown down from Alaska to see the reunion. Inside the enclosure, Legacy lay in her favorite spot with Echo curled against her side. The old wolf and the young pup. Past and future. Ghost would be proud, Sarah said softly. Ghost is proud, Hope corrected. She's watching, through them. Echo lifted his head and howled, young and uncertain, but learning. Legacy joined him, her howl deep and strong despite her age. And across the mountains, through the forests, over the snow-covered landscape of Montana, their song carried promises of protection and loyalty and love that transcended species, transcended time, transcended everything science said was possible. The white wolves were home, and they always would be.